we got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. And how the littlest things in the world ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal, but we've got to find a way to deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this.
Whenever you want.
I want. Welcome, guys. Welcome to The Power of How. I am Daniel Torado. I'm here with my boys, Brennan Tassef, and Matt Fulchiron.
Yeah, that's the proper way to pronounce it.
I'm just trying to honor your ancestors.
And you'll have to teach me the proper way to pronounce my own last name.
Matt Fulchiron, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here for many reasons. Well, this is nuts because this is the first time we're here.
Yeah.
This is officially a new studio.
Yeah.
So we're no longer at Gotham.
I had you in here years ago to tape a podcast called Roadheads.
Yeah.
And it was one of my worst engineering days. Somehow that podcast never came out. I never had the balls to tell you. That podcast never came out because
I figured because I was never tagged on anything.
Yeah, I fucked up the audio, which I don't mean for you to lose confidence.
Not at all.
I've engineered over 500 podcasts, and that was the one that didn't work out. But I was like, Louis didn't like my my engineering and my technical skills. So I don't know if you've ever been like under the pressure to where like someone thinks you're not good at it, and it's just like the self-fulfilling prophecy, and you just like you're tense and you fuck it. I don't even know what was fucked up about. I don't even know how I could possibly fuck up.
But you know what's weird? I didn't feel you were tense, and that was a great podcast.
I know. I remember
a really good one.
I remember I had a great joke that'll never see the light of day. I still remember. It was like 4 years ago. You were talking about Buddhism or something, and I go, so when was there only one set of footprints? You know, like. But it'll never come out.
It'll never come out.
Yeah.
Well, it just did, but not as well. So this is really cool. So, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited because, well, I'm giving you a break because this is my first time hosting. So this is a thrill. I'm excited. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics in the world, which is music.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're going to approach, how music has, I believe, healing properties. You might agree, disagree, but I just wanted to share a story. This is a crazy story. True story. When I was like 16 years old, I had mono. Mm-hmm. I caught mono, and I was just sick for like 3 months, for the whole summer. And for some reason, my body wasn't getting stronger. I kept feeling weak, and my doctor would prescribe me antibiotics without even seeing me, just antibiotics after antibiotics.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
Yeah, it was nuts, and I think it was killing my immune system, and I was up to like 4 or 5 months of just really feeling ill.
How old were you?
I must have been 16 years old.
Mm-hmm. So you're just missing school?
Well, no, I was missing it was summertime, but this was like, it was coming September, and I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling awful.
Yeah.
And I started to panic. I started to worry, and I was like, what's going on? I felt so weak, so depleted of energy. And then I told my dad, I said, I got to see a doctor, seriously. Like, really, this is not normal. And then he set up an appointment where they had like this whole blood test going, and I spoke to the doctor. I told her all of my symptoms and everything, and she said, well, it's from the sound of it sounds like you, believe it or not, I can't believe she said that. She said, it sounds like you might have cancer.
What?
Oh, you might. Sounds like you might have the worst
possibly
fatal disease going.
Right, for sure.
But I'm not sure.
Right. Could you imagine a 16-year-old hearing that?
Yeah. It sounds like your dick might fall off. What?
Possibly.
I'm sorry. We're not sure, though.
Maybe.
Why don't you come in 2 weeks? Mull this over for half a month.
Yo,
then come by.
I was so devastated when I heard that. So then I go home. I share the news with my parents, and I told her I felt so weak. I felt like I couldn't go up the stairs. And I used to work out a lot. I used to do a lot of martial arts, and I was out of like my classes for a few months, and I told my mom as well, and they're both so worried. I get the test results back, and I speak with a doctor, and it was like within 24 hours, which was great. And she said, "You have nothing. Mm-hmm. You are perfectly fine." And I said, "That's impossible. Can you run the tests again?" Uh-huh. And she said, "We did. We ran the test twice, and you are in the clear. You have nothing. You are perfectly healthy." Mm-hmm. And I said, "No way." And then she said, "Well, what I think happened is that you've been so used to being sick. You've been accustomed to like laying in bed and not moving, and you were in that state of mind for such a long time that you kind of went along with it, and that became your new you." Mm-hmm. And she said, "Listen, I want you to do this. I want you to go take a shower. Tell yourself that you're feeling healthy. Tell yourself that you're strong, and when you get out of the shower, do something you haven't done in forever. Put on a song and dance."
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
This is doctor's orders.
Yeah.
To go home and boogie.
The one who said I had cancer, possibly.
Yeah.
But there was something very encouraging to hear a doctor say that. And so I followed the orders. I took a shower. I kept telling myself, "I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong. I'm healthy. I'm healthy. Like incantations almost." Mm-hmm. And and I got out of the shower, and I put on the radio, and the song that played was Lionel Richie, "All Night Long." Mm-hmm. All night long. Yeah, thank you. We really needed that.
Well, we're skipping copyright issues. But have Brennan singing all the songs.
No, but look what happened. You know what's crazy? Look what you just did.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you couldn't stop yourself from. You're humming it. And it's.
Which is quite the contrast when it comes on at a wedding. I start to fucking tighten up. Like, no,
not me, baby. I'm the first one on the dance floor. So when I heard that song, and there's something about that song that it starts off so smoothly, with percussions and these weird, these strange, eclectic sounds, and then it gets into a groove, and then it picks up, and there's like a true rhythm where there's a real crescendo in that song. Mm-hmm. And I just started doing what she said and just dance. And after that, like 4 or 5 minute song, I felt amazing. I felt amazing. And I could not believe how all this was psychosomatic.
Right.
How I had like hypochondriac tendencies as a teenager, for sure. So it was the first time in my life that I realized the power of your mind, what you can do to yourself, the stories you tell yourself, and how you can convince yourself of anything, good or bad.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And it was just so empowering. And to this day, when I'm in trouble, I go back to that song. I remember I was in the Laughing Skull, the comedy competition, and I was just getting in my head about it. And I just took a walk. I was playing it on my iPod and on repeat and repeat and repeat. And I just got in a zone. But it's a weird zone, that song, because you not only feel confident, but you feel smooth and you feel happy. And it's all these vibrations. That music, that's what it is. Music is just vibrations. And whatever music you listen to, you're going to pick up on those vibrations.
But isn't the danger of that song that you listen to it so much and then you lay down to go to bed and it's all night long. The lyrics are working against you.
If you have insomnia, then you're in trouble.
Right. Then you got to put on Dancing on the Ceiling.
Right.
Or Hello. I think Hello works better.
And it's funny because we were just talking about that with how I shared that story with you when we were having ramen, and you were thinking of like I listen to music that it doesn't necessarily isn't necessarily positive, but makes me feel positive.
Yeah.
And you were mentioning
so I listen
Eminem.
because I go to the gym 6 days a week, and there's a lot of times when my alarm goes off, I don't want to get up, I don't want to go, but then I play a lot of like Eminem or Slipknot, like a lot of real heavy, like like real heavy percussion and stuff, and when I listen to that, I'm like, oh no, like we're going.
Yeah.
We're fucking like, let's go.
Yeah.
And that, again, the music itself isn't super positive, but it does have a positive effect because when I hear it, I get, and that's why growing up in locker rooms, we always play music before the game. Like right before the game, probably the 20 minutes before the game, we have like a quiet time where everyone kind of just gets like centered. But before the game, this. You think you don't want to go to the gym, then you play this?
This is too dark. This is.
But this is what I'm saying. Is this is just
it starts dark,
yeah.
But then it's all positive about eating spaghetti and shit.
Yeah.
This is
When's
like
this gonna start?
this is to like collapse.
Yeah.
This is bananas. This is the most motivating song
this is the
Eminem
one.
ever
He won
came out with.
An Oscar for this, if I'm not mistaken.
For this album.
Yeah.
Which I think was his greatest album by far.
This is the best. If you have anything in your life you need to get motivated for and you don't want to do it, play this song.
Yeah.
Sees everything you ever wanted.
The only thing I don't like about this song is that you only got one shot.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck, I missed my one shot.
Oh wait, this is not to like collapse.
No, this is
Yeah.
This is about facing the competition. This is about live performance.
Let me tell you something about this song. This song creates anxiety in me.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
Me too.
Yes,
That's what it's about. It's about anxiety.
It's totally. This is not the song I was talking about.
no.
But
that one
I know
is what is the name of that? Everyone knows. Lose Yourself.
Lose Yourself.
Yeah.
This is Lose Yourself. Yeah, my bad. Big bad.
It's fine if you're not about to do a performance in front of people. Now, if you're going to go lift weights, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's more than fine. It's good. But if this is to me, this song is more like, you should be nervous, motherfucker.
Yeah,
this show
absolutely.
counts.
Yeah, right.
It's interesting because we're talking about music. Now, does this happen with you, both of you? Is there certain music? So there's certain music I only listen to at the gym. And then if I'm having like a shitty day, I can't listen to that music. I have to listen to something else because that music amplifies just what you're talking about. It amplifies kind of the mood I'm in. So everything that happened with the hard drive getting lost, I mailed it to my editor and I was like flipping out because...
So for those who don't know, Brennan mailed his hard drive of his one-man show.
Everything was on a hard drive to my editor.
Through FedEx, and FedEx basically robbed him.
Yeah.
Like cut the thing out of the envelope and still delivered the envelope.
They literally brought the envelope to my editor's door and then my editor was like, "What's this?" And he goes, "This is how it got to my truck, but I had to drop off the envelope and let you know."
What?
So my editor, I come out of the shower after the gym and I have like 3 missed calls and 2 texts. And he's like, "You need to call me like now." So I was like, "Well, that's not good." So I called him and he goes, "Hey man, they just handed me an empty package."
Oh God.
And
you need to lose your disc.
But that's the thing is like I had just come from the gym and I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And in that case, I have to listen to something completely different, or else that'll just because music almost amplifies the way I'm feeling.
Right, of course.
So being in that state, I was like, "Oh, I have to listen to like something more fun, like something more energetic, or at least more relaxing." And I listen to classical music when I get in that kind of a mood.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah, I have it on my phone and I just put it on. So I have a Pandora station. It's literally called Classical Music for Studying, and I just put that. So it's a lot of Bach and Beethoven and Mozart and stuff like that because I honestly was like, well, I'm going to go to the FedEx store that I mailed it from and just start ripping things off the wall. Like, obviously, that's the next move.
Right. But
I don't see any other way.
But you know what's crazy? Because back at that time they had no Eminem.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of violence in classical music.
Well, classical music is like thrash metal.
Right. Well,
it's like
metal guitarists are totally.
To me, it's the same thing as like
trained.
Master of Puppets, Metallica.
Right. It's It's
the same
some
thing.
ways.
There are some people on like social media like that makes sketches and stuff. There's this one guy who will dress up like a classical musician and then he'll play it, but he'll play it like in his car. And then when the beat drops, he's like, and you're like, oh yeah. I mean, I guess at the time, if you're listening to this, you'd be like, what the fuck is
you
this?
get like 100-piece orchestra in there to just fucking
railing,
just make you feel something. The power.
So, oh my God, I couldn't imagine back then going to see that.
Yeah.
That would be insane.
Yeah. I've seen it recently. The past couple of years, I went to the Philharmonic, and it's just, it's an amazing thing to see, but it's more like I was coming at it from the Eminem Lose Yourself, where I'm just watching it like freaking out for these guys that if they play one wrong note, like they're
Yeah.
going to be so fucking embarrassed. I'm just watching them like this. How are they pulling this off?
They've got to think of it like how we think of comedy when we're on stage. Like the audience doesn't know what we're supposed to do.
No, but they do because
I guess,
there's like 3 other violins. So if you're the one violin playing the wrong thing, everyone's like,
Yeah, I think I think
if like the 3 of us were doing a comedy routine in unison, and I started saying the wrong shit, they'd be like, "Oh, that guy don't know the script."
yeah, but you can also get you can get drowned in the noise of the other, which is kind of like improv. You can get saved.
Sure.
But if you're doing a solo, a piano solo, or a violin solo, and you pull away from that quartet at one moment, then you're
everyone's going to know.
Yeah, of course.
My friend, to apply it to our business, my friend who is a musician came to see me do comedy in Portland, and it was a showcase type show with like 10 comics on it. And he goes, "You guys get up there and you're all doing solos." That's how he looked at it. He's like, "You're all doing solos."
Wait, but we're doing jazz solos, so whatever the fuck it sounds like, it sounds good.
It's true,
you know what
but,
I mean?
but you're the only, even against jazz solo, there's still other guys on stage while you're soloing. Do a jazz solo.
Oh, right.
So like you're just fucking up there.
Right.
You're just up there
Here's the same thing
soloing.
in
You
music.
got no safety net.
If I'm doing it like a guitar solo and then like something happens, like I can just like give one of the other band members a look and then they can just like, okay, we're getting back into the song.
Mm-hmm.
But with comedy, it's like if something happens, you're like,
you're just stuck up there.
so airplanes, right, guys?
There's nothing worse to me than like fucking up in the first 10 minutes of a headlining set and be like, all right, well, let's just go through with this. Even though I remember I got up and I called, I was in Richland, Washington, and I'm like, yo, what's up, Kirkland? And everyone's like, boo. And I'm like, all right, we got another 44 minutes to go.
I remember
I was screwed. I was just screwed for the next 44 minutes.
You guys know Ross Bennett?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Ross and you were a comic. Great, funny guy, man. So funny. I remember he was in Montreal once he was headlining, and he was struggling. It was a weird crowd, weird night, and he just rolled his sleeves up slowly, one by one. Like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
Time to go to work.
Yeah.
You know what Brody Stevens used to say was like, oh, you want to play hardball? Like, it's fucking on now. Y'all just fucked up.
But I feel like music does that. To your point and to yours, I think that's a great motivating song, but in my case, it creates way more anxiety because I remember in Ottawa there's a club called Absolute, and they would open every show with that song.
Oh, really?
So as a young comic, like that's the song you associate with the one shot, the mom spaghetti, the stress, the anxiety, and you got to go up with that energy.
And they're also letting the audience in on that.
Right.
Like they're not supposed to know that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, and it has backfired too because I've done hype music like we used to do for football. I've done that before shows, and that's backfired horribly because then you get up there and you're like, let's fucking go. And everyone's like, whoa. You're like, so anyway, guys, what's up?
Let's moderately apply our skills right now under pressure.
Yeah, because people can get a little nervous when you come with too much energy up top.
Yeah. No, for sure. Especially if you're playing for 2 people. That was my my mistake in comedy here. Playing for I played for 1 person once. But and I remember the first show I did in New York City, or the second one at the New York Comedy Club. That was the song that I was playing on my iPod.
All Night Long?
No. The Eminem, Lose Yourself, which was a huge mistake because I got to the club so stressed out. I bombed. I was like, too much pressure, man. But do you have to collapse?
I only do have one shot.
I remember that song came up when I was pitching a show for like a sitcom around Hollywood. And that song made me like crazy fucking nervous. But I also
like one shot.
Like the weekend before it, I watched Rocky and 8 Mile like back to back. Like,
man.
Here we go.
Well, I feel like Rocky's more positive.
Rocky is more positive, and it's more of a slow burn, and it's more of I'm just going to try and see what happens. I'm going to put on my chucks and work out.
Yeah, 8 Mile can be, if you watch that movie and then don't watch the last scene, it can be incredibly depressing.
Oh, yeah,
because it's just everything is going wrong after wrong after. And then even in that last scene where spoiler alert, where he tears apart the freestyle.
Yeah.
That's like if you like destroyed at an open mic. You're like, all right, cool. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
And
That's it.
Well, I never saw a crowd like that at an open mic.
yeah,
though.
but you know what I mean. It's
I have.
you need to go to Jackson. You need to go to Rain Dogs.
I'm kidding. But that actually is what happened too, and I didn't put the two and two together. After the last pitch meeting, I like went back to work. Like I went back to my day job. Just like Rabbit.
Yeah. That's the same thing with the one-man show. I did the one-man show, and I thought, like, here goes my career. Here it comes.
Yeah.
And then after the one-man show, it's like, so you're going to be at work on Tuesday, right? And I was like, yeah, I will be.
I only have one shot. I did it right. And now I'm going back to work.
Yep, and now we're back to where we were.
Yeah, I think music has a lot to do with how we feel and how a lot of comics use music before a show before they get on stage. I'm sure you've heard this study with the three plants.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, the one with they play Baroque classical music, the other plant they play no music, and the other one they play metal. And the one that seems to be the healthiest is obviously the Baroque classical music as opposed to the metal.
The one that listens to metal hates its parents.
Yeah, right.
And drops out of high school.
Well, the leaves drop, and it's just I really believe in. I believe in vibes, man. I believe in I see that with friendships. I see that with movies. I stopped watching horror movies. I know your lady loves horror movies, but I stopped because why do I want to life in New York City is anxious enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do not want to put myself through more anxiety. And
speaking of that,
movies.
and this is a little detours.
Yeah.
I played this gig that paid basically in weed. He paid like $50 in a joint, and it was such a tough gig that I smoked a joint right there at the gig.
Ooh.
And then I mean after the show.
Oh, okay.
And then on my way home, it was like a fucking fun house. Like homeless people kept popping out. 25 cents. No, they were just popping out of nowhere. And I had that like Freddie, like Nightmare on Elm Street Park 6, where no matter what subway station I went to, no matter what platform I went to, it was the wrong platform.
I love how specific
and I would go back and forth, like under. I'm like, how am I never at the right
nightmare.
fucking subway stop?
That's my nightmare.
I had to go up and just go to another stop altogether.
Wow.
But that was part of the same stop, and that did the trick. Got me out of my funk,
Yeah, and it does that, man. I feel like with anything that we anyone or anything that we get close to, or I feel like with time I also weed out friends because of vibes, bad vibes, good vibes. Movies is the same. I even though I'm a comic, but I do not like watching comedies.
Me neither.
I hate watching comedies.
They got to be
from
really
the 80s.
Fucking
80s
funny.
or 70s or 80s, but early 90s. But comedies, they just don't make me laugh. Like very few comedy movies make me laugh. I feel like I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm kind of jaded.
Yeah,
I see the recipe, I see the formula, I see the whole tricks, and it's like, man. And it's less. I feel like back in the 80s, we had such wonderful comedic actors that we just.
I don't know. There's certain things like Veep or 30 Rock.
I've never seen
Yeah,
Veep.
30 Rock was
where
great.
it's overwhelmingly funny to the
I've never
point
seen
where
Veep.
like sometimes you can't even laugh. You're just like you got punched in the stomach.
Oh, nice.
It's like ballet.
It's like Arrested Development. I love Arrested Development.
Yeah, the writing is so
Right.
good and the performance is so
Right.
good. You're
Amazing.
like, holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Well, there's speaking of like some of the older comedies, there's a lot of those that and anxiety and horror movies and stuff. To kind of tie it all together for me, there's comedies from the 80s that I won't watch because it gives me anxiety. Almost any National Lampoons.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, everyone's like, oh, these are hilarious. I go, everything just keeps going wrong. Like, that's my fucking nightmare. Like, everything is going wrong.
Well, planes,
all the
trains, and
time.
automobiles. That's all that
Yeah,
is.
like people are like, oh, those comedies are hilarious, and I'm like, I watch them and I get like sick because I'm like, I couldn't imagine because I could just see that happening to myself where it's like, you go to rent the car and then something's wrong or you like miss your exit or like all this stuff that goes wrong and you're just like, oh, this is miserable. Like I can't watch. Like
That's how I feel.
I get more anxiety with those than anything.
With I think Doug Stanhope is brilliant, but if I watch him too long, I just think like the world is just the most miserable place to live in. I love Louis C.K. I think he's a comedic genius. But when I watch his show, his sitcom, he just never wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He never wins, and I get it. It's funny at first, but when it's show after show after show of him just losing and losing, and even when he seemingly wins at the end, he'll end up losing somehow.
Yeah.
And it just it deflates me, and it just like I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well,
Does that make you?
I'm up for either way. Like just to use Louis as an example, he can have it both ways. Like there's, I think one of the best episodes is when he guest hosts the David Letterman show. That he might get picked as the new host of the Late Show, and he has a real hard time doing it. And David Lynch is the director, and he's just so weird.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, he's just so weird. At one point, like Louis is so bad in rehearsal. David Lynch is like, "You're a comedian? Shit! I thought you must have been a weatherman or something. The way you're fucking news broadcaster." Louis fucking pulls it off. He does well, but it's really just a ploy for Letterman's contract, and so Letterman gets the job of hosting his own show, and the end is Louis just outside of the Ed Sullivan Theater, going, "Fuck you, Letterman! I did it! I fucking did it!" And I think that's the bittersweetness of life. Like he pulled it off. He didn't embarrass himself, but he didn't get the job.
Yeah.
Did you see the one when he one that I specifically remember, which is I thought was my favorite one, and it ended with a very positive note, is when he's performing the troops for the troops in Iraq.
I didn't see that one.
I remember, and he has like a
duck.
A duck.
Yeah,
that's
a duckling,
what it was.
a little duck.
And they see the duckling, and then it just becomes like human again. It's not like who's good, who's bad, who's the enemy, it was just about the duck.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was like such a pure, beautiful moment. And I would have loved to see more of that, you know?
Yeah, well, there's, and that reminds me of another great show called Atlanta.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah.
That show's...
No, I never saw it.
It's
You
great.
gotta see it.
It's great
Yes.
because
I heard it's great.
it's about being a modern rapper.
Yeah.
Which means it's just like being a comedian. It's like you're kind of famous, but you ain't found a way to get paid yet. You know, you got a hit song on SoundCloud or whatever. Right. And that's how the first couple seasons start. And then it turns into like this really artistic show where sometimes the main characters aren't even in it.
Yeah.
It's just like this. It's some of them, they're like Twilight Zone episodes or something.
That's cool.
And it's just a really artistic, great show that you don't even know what you're going to get when the next episode starts. And
that's amazing.
I love that. And there's a lot of that, like the realism of it. Like there's a lot of failure, and but there's small victories.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the hard thing too, is pivoting into like the shows and stuff. Is I like those shows that are realistic, where it's like, oh yeah, not everything great happens all the time. But I think to your point, when it's only bad stuff happening, like it seems like over and over and over again, then that can get really tiresome.
Well, yeah,
because you're kind of like, all right, like that's why I liked Entourage, and this is going to sound corny as shit.
It's fine, but you're in a safe spot.
Entourage would end Entourage flip-flopped. They had a formula for it. They would end the season very badly, and then the next season they would end very good, and then very bad, and then very good.
Well, because every episode ended well.
Yeah.
And so they had to end the season on a downer.
Yeah.
So that like they had to come back. You got to come back for the good stuff.
Well, yeah.
For the happy ending.
And that's why.
And we will deliver.
And that's why
Bob Saget will fuck a hooker.
Yeah.
And you'll feel good inside.
And that's actually why I really like the show, because even though like I remember that season where he had a huge drug problem at the end of the season, and he like punches Eminem in the face, and they get in this big fight.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I just remember like being like, oh man, like even this show's turning dark. Like this, and then the very next season, it's like all happy, and you're oh yeah.
Well, you know what's great about that show is like even though it's dark, he still has a job on a movie,
still a movie star.
And he's banging a porn star.
Right.
And that's his rock bottom.
Yeah. Right. I'm finally out of control, and he pulls out this thing of cocaine that would have cost like $10 million.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like. When I think of relating the like movies, and I think it goes beyond music and movies and television shows. It's art. It's art in general, man. It's like you were mentioning. What is it? Marianne Williamson's poem.
Oh yeah, by letting your light shine, you subconsciously.
A lot of people,
others,
a lot of people. My deepest fear is
our biggest fear is that we are inadequate.
Yeah, exactly.
Our biggest fear is not that we are inadequate; it is that we are powerful beyond measure. That's
right. It's a very famous poem that a lot of people attribute that poem to Mandela. but it's actually Marianne Williamson, I believe, who wrote it, and it's on that movie Coach
Carter. That's where I know it from.
So even just like when you can find either a song or especially a song, because the song, the melody of a music has vibes, but then the words on top of that has vibes. Like every word we say or use has a certain frequency. If I say fuck, like that does something to my body. I get tense immediately. If I say the word love, like I just kind of loosen up. There's something about the flow of the tip of the L, the tip of the tongue going like the opening line of Lolita. When he explains, it's so beautifully written with the way he explains how, which is weird because it's a pedophile explaining why he loves the name Lolita, but just the word love, the vibration coming out of it. So when you combine music with great lyrics or poetry, and you combine both together, that does a lot to how you feel, how your mood, that's why I love Shakespeare, man. I think Shakespeare's insane. He's like the OG Eminem.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand Shakespeare at all.
I'm 100% sure you understand.
I'm sure everything.
100%
I'm sure everything I see on television is derivative. I'm sure there's a lot of derivative stuff I understand, but when I see Shakespeare at face value, I am confused. I don't understand the vocabulary.
Well, it's also interesting.
I also haven't tried that hard.
I had an English.
I think that's it.
I had an English professor where we did a lot of Shakespearean, like just the sonnets and stuff like that. And when I would read it, because it's an iambic pentameter, and when I would read it by myself, I was like,
maybe you want to explain what iambic pentameter.
I just remember those words.
Yeah,
but it's like da 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 da. I think
it's like the meter divided.
It's how you're supposed to read it.
Right.
So I remember the professor always saying, read it in iambic pentameter, but to the point that we just illustrated, I didn't know what the fuck that meant.
Right.
So whenever I would read it, it sounded like convoluted and didn't make sense. And then we'd go into class, and then when the professor would read it, I was like, oh, this sounds beautiful. I just could never get the two to mesh.
I understood. I got it like once they translated it for me.
Yeah.
Like they'd be like, this means this. This means this. I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm not there. Like I can't instantly translate it.
Honestly, I think you are there. I think you just have to just take your time with it. I have like
let me check my calendar.
Dude, I have a great story. Did I ever tell you my Shakespeare story with my acting teacher or not?
No, you haven't.
No?
Yeah.
Yo, this is ridiculous. So I'm 19 years old. I'm at this acting.
You just got over mono.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm writing your biography.
Good callback. So I'm 19 years old, and I just started this first acting workshop, and the teacher was very entertaining, very, in many ways, very self-centered, but still lovable. Very fun, entertaining, engaging.
Yeah, an actor.
Yeah, exactly. But I felt like, I was kind of bullied by him. He would just kind of pick on me all the time. I was like, I was probably the youngest one. I was 19. And then he says, and then at one point, in one class, he decided to just go on like full on and humiliate me. And he says, well, Daniel's studying literature, at McGill, and he thinks that literature is important, and he's wasting his time studying at a university, and if he wants to be an actor, he should be an actor, and not spend any money or time just learning literature. Just go act, be an actor.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell's wrong with this dude? And I said, in my defense, I think literature has a lot to do with acting because you are using words, and if you don't understand the words that you're using, then you're in trouble as an actor.
Right.
And he says, what are you talking about? So I'll give you an example. I said, what is Shakespeare's most famous line? Give me a few. What do you guys think?
To be or not to be?
To be or not to be. The one, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Right. So I said, you know what that means? Romeo, what does that mean? Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? And then he says, of course I know. It means, where are you, Romeo? And I said, no, it does not mean, where are you, Romeo? Wherefore back then meant why.
Right.
So it was an existential question. So when Juliet is stepping out of the balcony, and she is, because he's a Montague and she's a Capulet, and because they're from both different backgrounds and families, they can't be together.
Star-crossed lovers, I believe, is how it opens.
So
Hatfields and the McCoys.
So she is out on the balcony and she's asking this existential question, like, why are you Romeo? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a stupid actress who doesn't know the meaning of words, and you start playing why are you where are you Romeo?
Yeah.
And you start looking all over the balcony, then you look like a complete fool, and you miss the whole point of Shakespeare. And I said that in class. Oh man, talk about good vibes. You know?
Yeah, what did he say?
Nothing.
Yeah.
He couldn't say anything. He could not say anything, and I gave him a free lesson on Shakespeare. But it was awesome to understand how important words are.
And you should have got like a $5 rebate. Yeah. Because you taught the teacher something.
Well, yeah, but he hated me after that.
Of course he did. He already hated you.
But we clashed, and then oddly enough, we found this mutual respect. But we had to go through that, and yeah, it's like it's words, music, melodies, visuals. It's like Clockwork Orange, you know, when they started brainwashing you.
Yeah.
And it's what you see constantly, what you listen to, what you read.
Yeah,
just feeds in so much to state of being.
On that note, I've actually in the morning, and Brennan caught me in the middle of it. Started listening to jazz in the morning. Because I love music and I've been into it since I was a kid. I used to listen to the top 40, Casey Kasem countdown, into punk rock, into hip hop, into metal. Like I've been in bands. I learned to play guitar. I fucking rapped. I'm glad all this happened before the internet was popular, but I've done it. But what can really make me enjoy music less is the association with the memory of a song I like.
Memory, right. Yep.
And then even if I don't have that, lyrics can put ideas in my head. Whereas I was reading On the Road for the 8 billionth time, and it was all about jazz. And I put that on and I realized I don't have any association with any of these songs. Maybe one or two, maybe something that was sampled, maybe something that was in a movie, but mostly no. And then there's no lyrics to get me thinking about something that's not my own.
That's why I do the classical music whenever I'm working on anything, whether it's the podcast or before with the script or just if I'm just writing. I listen to classical because there's no lyrics. Because my big thing, I don't know if you guys do this, but my big thing when I listen to music is I get obsessed with the words. So like there's so many songs, and I don't know if I'm weird or if other people are just dolts, but there's so many songs where I'll listen to and I'll look at someone and be like, yeah, can you fucking believe he just did that? And they're like, oh, I just like the melody. And I'm like, you didn't hear what he just said, especially in Eminem or Lil Wayne, like especially with hip hop, the way they'll rhyme certain words or like say certain things, and you're like, did anybody else catch it? Like, is anybody else fucking listening?
Right.
And so I became I become obsessed with words and songs. And so I have to just listen to something without words, or else I'll just like if I'm writing and then I hear something with words, I like all of a sudden get sucked into that, and then I'm like, wait, I'm fucking working.
Right, like when 50 Cent says, "I'll be in the club," I'll be like, I wish I was in the club. I never said that.
Or when he says, I love you like a fat kid loves cake.
Yeah,
that's a great line.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But to his point, when you listen to classical music, do you have a sense memory about it?
No, because I'm completely disconnected from it. I never listened to it really like as a kid. That's the thing is sense memory is obviously it's a real thing because we listen to Frank Sinatra every Sunday in the Rat Pack as like a family thing.
Yeah.
So now whenever I hear that, I automatically go back to that time in my head, which is a weird sense memory because like not a lot of people listen to the Rat Pack nowadays.
Right.
So it's just weird because whenever I hear any of those songs, like I know them all by heart. As soon as I hear the melody, I can start singing it. But that's the thing I love about listening to classical. And I got to start doing jazz now because when I walked in, it was really cool.
It's cool, right?
Yeah. Because there's just I have no affiliation with it at all.
Sense memory is is fascinating. In acting, there was a, have you heard of Stanislavski, who's like the father of modern acting, Russian?
I think I've heard. I think I've heard it. So, and just kind of forgot it.
Okay,
yeah.
So from Stanislavski came a revolution in the acting movement, which was came from Meisner, Stella Adler. And they there was this battle about, is sense memory useful for an actor or is it dangerous? A lot of people would use people who would use sense memory would. It's a dangerous place to go as an actor, because if you haven't dealt with that issue, if it's still like messing you up on a day-to-day, then you bring that to your work, and as though, even though it might work and it might serve you as an actor, it might really mess you up after. So what Meisner really focused on, he didn't focus on sense memory, but he focused on imagination. And Einstein would say imagination is greater than knowledge. And he would give an example, like let's say you're acting a scene where your mom died or whatever, and then you have to go back to that trauma of when you were 9, and my God, I can't believe you try to relive something that you will never heal from. And what does that mean to you if I say to you, okay, pretend or act as though your mom died, or you have to play a character as though your mother died, but your mother in real life never died. So how do you work that?
Yeah.
So Meisner would say, just use your imagination. So, for example, let's say my mom's still alive, so I don't know what that means. How do I relate to that? But I can relate to, I don't know, I'm walking one day, I'm taking a walk. My mother just passed away, supposedly. I don't know what that means, what that feels like. But I know that my mom and my dad would always stop at this little coffee shop and have like a Danish together on every Sunday. And this Sunday, I just decide to walk on my own and just walk alone and clear my head and take in what just happened. And then I walk by that coffee shop, that pastry shop, and I see my dad. And he's sitting all alone having a Danish. Just saying that does something to me. And even just the thought of him just having his coffee alone, that moves me.
Yeah.
My mom's alive.
Right.
But see how that served me.
Yeah.
That was like, whoa, that imagination.
We gotta start charging for these acting.
Right. No, but you know what I mean? It's like how imagination could be so powerful. If it's the more specific you are, it's like a joke, or it's like music. The more specific, or that off note in jazz, or every note is an off note in jazz.
No, I know.
But it's I heard something really funny today, 2 days ago. It's about jazz, and it's funny we talk about this, but there was this. I don't know. I wish I can quote the musician who said that, but there was a conference and there was a Q&A. And a person asked the musician, is jazz more for the listener or more for the player? Which I thought was a great question, because a lot of people hate jazz.
Yeah.
And then he said, it's always for the listener, because the first listener is the player. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also on top of that, or maybe even lesser than that, is jazz is more like comedy. Like you kind of got to be, or stand-up comedy. You got to be in the room to appreciate it to its fullest, to see these guys that they are improvising and they are playing off one another. Is really, you can feel the tension and the relief of the tension.
I tell people that all the time.
When you watch stand-up comedy on TV, you're just like, whatever. It looks like some kind of, like it doesn't look any different than a sitcom or something, but there's actually so much fucking tension in the room.
The energy
the audience
in the room.
Well, you don't even realize the audience is nervous too. Yeah. Like, is this going to be funny? Like, how am I going to interact with this? And when a comedian takes charge, takes control, proves they're funny, there's this huge relief. Yeah. There's this huge experience.
This trust that they now have.
They're going with you. Oh, you just lost them. You got to win them back.
Yeah.
All that shit, man. It's like it's an epic journey.
And you see the comics who are classically trained, and you see the comics who are like jazzy comics, and you see the combination of both. I think ideally you want to be like that combo.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Sinbad before on this show, but he was
We're always talking about
Brilliant.
Sinbad.
he is the true
Amazing, man.
He is the true jazz style comic. He just gets up on stage and starts going.
Yeah.
And I know I'm sure I've said it before, but when I've tried that, I'm like, oh, this is a disaster.
Right.
Like, this is bad.
You know when I'm good at that is when it's an established new joke night.
Yeah.
Right? Like the audience knows you're trying new jokes, and I go up there with like 5 new jokes, but I don't want to do them.
Yeah.
So I like do everything I can to not do those jokes, to never get to those jokes. And that's why like that's why I made like friends as an open micer, because I never wanted to do what was on my piece of paper.
Yeah.
And being in the moment is much more entertaining.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that so much. Where it's some of these people who are like passed at like clubs and stuff. But I think we've discussed it before. But if you're barely passed at a club, you're not going to do a bunch of new material because you want to stay passed at that club.
Yeah.
So they'll come to open mics and do material, and it's so I love watching it because they get on stage and they really. Just like exactly what you're saying.
Right.
They're just bullshitting with everybody because they're like, I don't fucking need to be here.
Yeah.
I'm just here.
Yeah.
And those sets are always the best. And
I just did one on Tuesday. You saw me do it.
Yeah.
I did about 2 minutes of material and it took me 7 minutes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, but
sure.
wait. Mind you, there's to let the audience know there are
there's
12 people in the audience.
And that's why I didn't want
in
to
a room that seats 200.
And I didn't want to do
It's a
like
big room.
I didn't want to do the fucking Chuck E. Cheese robot performance.
Yeah,
So I
right.
was like, let me fucking never get to this joke. You know, let me stall. Let me bring up something that I don't know where I'm going with.
Yeah.
It. Let me admit that I don't know where I'm going with it.
That's also true too. If you admit it, for me, there's a sense of relief. So like a lot of times I'll try to do a bit, and if it's not working, I'll just be like, "What the fuck, you guys?" And then everybody like is like, "Oh, okay, all right." And then it, like you can kind of be like, "Oh yeah, we're all in on it now."
I think that's the hardest thing as a comic, even to this day. And I feel some people are more tapped into it. I was reading Rick Rubin's The Act of Creativity, and he talks about like this antenna, how artists need to tune their antenna. Some are really in tune and some are not. They get lost in the noise of life.
Yeah.
And some are just so sensitive to everything, and they use it and they're open and they use it they become like this vacuum. And I think the goal, my dream as a comic, is to always be in what Judy Carter calls. So Judy Carter wrote the Comedy Bible, right?
First thing I read before I even started comedy.
And you know, it's a great book. It's a great book on how to structure a joke, and she even talks about once you learn the rules, you can break them. So,
and the rules are simple. That's what's great about it.
Yeah.
There's like there's like 3 different types of jokes.
Right.
This is how they work.
Yeah.
And you're like, get the fuck out of here. But you know it's true immediately because when you read the examples, you're like, oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I talking about?
You were talking about
Rick Rubin, the antenna.
The Rick Rubin.
Right. But why did I bring up Judy Carter?
Because you were saying that some artists are more in tune and some aren't. Some people can get lost in the noise of everything.
So she talks about what's called the comedy zone.
Yeah.
To be in that comedy zone.
Jacksonville?
Right. And we've all lived it, and it's when you are completely detached to your material. It comes or it doesn't have to come, and whatever comes out of your mouth is funny.
Yeah.
And you are in such a high level of confidence that there's no fear. And I think that's the goal as for any comic, is to maximize your time or have it as accessible as possible, as many times as possible, to be in that comedy zone. And a lot of times I'm not. A lot of times I'm in my head.
It's amazing how often I'm not.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I was going to ask, because you guys headline obviously way more than I do or ever have. Do you guys find that it changes from show to show?
Yeah, it even like if you're doing 2 shows in one night.
Yeah, okay.
It can change.
Because there are some times where I've done show, like when I did my going away show in Jacksonville, the room was packed. Like I could have gone out there and gone like fart, and everyone would be like, ah.
Yeah.
But so I went up there with so much confidence because I was like, oh, everyone's here to see me. Like I can do whatever the fuck I want. Then there are other shows, like when I get to New York and I'm like auditioning at certain clubs and stuff, and I put so much pressure on myself that I'm like, I'm not, like, this isn't going to work. I bit off more than I could chew. Like, I'm not funny. And then I go up there and everything just falls flat. So I didn't know if what Judy is saying is that, like, it's a zone you can get in for an extensive time in your career, or if it's show to show?
I think it's, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's show to show.
Okay.
And then also to what you said, like even the mental preparation doesn't always have the effect. I've gone up there with no confidence and fucking crushed.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've gone up there with tons of confidence and bombed.
It's unpredictable.
It's
unpredictable.
It's chemistry. It's the certain amount. It's the right people in the audience.
Right. The energy in the room.
The right different groups of people. There's like all kinds of. It's unpredictable that it cannot be figured out, and mostly because you can't tell. Hey, you can't come in. You don't look like a fun person. You just have to deal with who shows up.
Yeah. Bachelorette party? No.
Yeah, no, you're in.
Tonight.
Yeah.
You're in. We hate you, and you're in.
Yep.
And just to be aware of and trust that everything that you find funny is funny. You know, I feel like especially when you're working out new jokes, you're kind of trapping yourself to fall in to be in your head, because you fall in memory, in the zone of memory, where I just got to get that structure, I got to get that line right, I got to get that punch, I got to
tag.
So the very structure of a joke forces you to pull you away from the comedy zone and get into memory field. But like as Bill Hicks would say, just like I close my eyes and I go up there and I don't know the first word coming out of my mouth, which, man.
It's probably fuck.
Yeah, right. Yeah, probably. But I always try to remember that. I always try to remember that whenever I'm either headlining, hosting, middling, opening, doing a 5-minute set, I always try as much as I can, because I do forget, but I try to remember that I don't know what's going to be the first thing out of my mouth. And when I do, sometimes magic happens. But when I do forget and I just go in with, all right, start with your first punchline, blah, blah, then I get into this like robotic mode. And I just wish I could find a way to just constantly be in that comedy zone.
Well, and then that's the other side of it. He says, only do your act if you can't think of something funny to say. Well, sometimes you can't think of something funny to say.
At least be interesting.
So you have to build that house.
Yeah.
So you can live in it.
Well, it's almost like that.
Right.
It's like you just said about knowing the rules so you can break them. It's the same thing, at least in my experience with my set. Like there's a lot of my material that I know so well that it's like I can get into it. And then if I get sidetracked talking, like if I say a certain line, like when I say, public record, Palm Beach County Gun Club. And then if people start to being like, fuck yeah, it's like, oh, obviously that's the jail in South Florida. So I can get derailed.
Right.
And like start talking to them and start interacting, and then I'm so comfortable in it, I know exactly where I'm going right back to.
Gotcha.
Which is again is the same thing as like what you're saying is once you know the structure, you can break it as much as you want. But that new joke, learning the structure, is crippling sometimes because it's like I know what I'm supposed to say because I wrote it, and it's funny, so I have to say it like this.
Well, that's the dangerous part. It's when you're trying to do it as you rehearse.
Yeah.
But you don't know it.
Yeah.
Right. You got to rehearse it. Right.
So you got to do two things. You got to rehearse the shit out of it, and then you got to let go of it once you feel like it's not going to plan.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, new punchline. Think of it, asshole.
Right.
Because you ain't doing this right. Like you got to.
Right.
And then I find that I'm always so intimidated of doing new material, but it usually gets one of the bigger laughs, whether I do it right or not. Because
but you
have
people are picking up.
You have more energy.
I bomb too, though.
Matt is the greatest bomber. No, but you know what I mean.
I do.
No, he has
because I don't bomb when I bomb.
No, you don't bomb.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And usually, when you watch someone bomb, comics love it. Comics love, but when we watch Matt bomb, it's funny. It's funny not only to the comics but to the audience because he has this way of just
that swagger.
Yeah, and this like I don't give a fuck in me, but you do give a fuck.
Oh my
but you
God.
got I don't give
I'll
a
go
fuck
home
in
and
me.
cry.
Yeah, I know.
But they're not going to know that.
No, that's my time.
And you have like these great lines. In some ways, some are compartmentalized where you know like a snake how to get out of anything, and you're so good at that. So very good at that.
But then when that doesn't work, it's like, oh.
Yeah, I really want to see you bomb.
Fuck. No, it happens.
I haven't.
It happens, but it's usually when I can't loosen up.
Right, when you're in your head.
Yeah,
when you're not in the comedy zone.
Right.
Yeah. How we doing with
You got we could end right now, but we've got 7-8 more minutes for the hour. Whatever you want to do.
No, I just wanted to, I think the main thing was I wanted to communicate with you guys and hear what your feel on music and
love it.
And I really want you to get into Shakespeare, man. I remember. I'm not kidding.
Let me get through Don Quixote first.
Well, I just got that Rick Rubin book in, and I still have 800 pages of Don Quixote.
Wait. But in all fairness, Don Quixote is a translation.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking. Anyways. And so is Shakespeare, by the way.
But you know what? It reminds me of that time we went to see, because I used to teach part-time and English. Yeah. And I was a substitute teacher. I was making some side money. This was a long time ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago. And it was for these. It was in a neighborhood in Lachine where kids were underprivileged, and it was like rough. It was a rough. It was a rough school, man, and I was supposed to fill in for the English teacher, and I said, all right, let's. There's no curriculum. There's like nothing. I'll just like go teach an English class, whatever that means. So I said, all right.
He was like, let's go.
So I said, you guys know anything about Shakespeare? They're like, nope, and they're like, boo, and they're booing Shakespeare.
Boo premise. And boo first minute of class.
They're standing up. They're talking to each other.
Yeah.
And I gave him, there's a very famous Shakespeare poem, sonnet, that starts, my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Uh-huh. So it's a really great poem because it's a poem where he makes fun. Petrarch was this Italian poet, and he I think he invented the sonnet. And he was like really corny, and he like it was like, your eyes are like the sun, and your breath is like a scent of perfume. Right, yeah. Exactly. So he was, but at that time it was gorgeous, but then it became stereotypical, and then it became corny. So Shakespeare makes fun of that, and he completely disses that form of poetry.
Right.
And he starts off his poem, like his first opening verse is like, my mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Mm-hmm. Coral is far more red than her lips red. Mm-hmm. If snow be white, why then her breasts are done? Uh-huh. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. Mm-hmm. I've seen roses damask red and white, but no such roses I've seen in her cheeks. And in perfumes is there more delight that in the breath that from my mistress reeks. So he just goes on just like dissing and dissing and dissing. And then the rhyming couplet at the end, which is always the conclusion of a sonnet, is and yet I believe something like, I believe my and yet by heaven I believe my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. And even though she sucks and she's not the most gorgeous, and her breath reeks and her hair like is ugly, man, I'm in love with her.
Right.
And that was like such a real. It was so real. Yeah. And when I shared that with the kids, they were like, wow. Yeah. They wanted to know, because again, it's so much about being authentic. Yeah. Right. It's like when you brought me to, remember, you want to tell that story?
Well, yeah. So my wife, she does similar things to what Daniel's just talking about. But she's an art therapist, so it's slightly different. So they create art together. They do animations together. But anyway, somebody at this high school, a teacher, asked if I would come talk about comedy, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. But then I started getting cold feet, and I'm like, I need Daniel to come do this with me. I asked Daniel to come do it with me, and we got up there, and it was the same scenario. Like, nobody wanted to hear from us. No, some people did. There was like 5 people who were like really interested, and then there was other people that were just like distracting us, heckling us. The best example I could think of is when this kid goes, y'all know Fluffy? And he was talking about Gabriel Iglesias. Yeah. And I go, yeah, I know Fluffy. And he goes, yeah, he's funny. He makes me laugh. Y'all don't make me laugh. And then he
stormed out, right?
Fucking packed his backpack really quick and stormed the fuck out. Like, fuck y'all, you're not funny.
Yeah, but
like somehow they thought we were going to be like
telling jokes
when we were there.
They thought you were coming for comedy.
They thought we were going to be entertaining them, and
well,
we
who
were
wouldn't? Two comics.
We were just telling them that like this is something you can do if you want to try it.
Yeah,
right.
And they were like, fuck off.
He was hysterical.
Fluffy.
They should have got Fluffy. I should have got Fluffy.
Should have called him. Put him on.
But that was man. We were happy when we left.
We were happy. They gave us free socks of the high school.
I don't remember that. Really?
I still got them. JSK. And yeah, no, it wasn't like, I'm just telling you what was funny about it. It was overall a good experience.
Yeah.
And
I think overall it was a great experience.
And we still worked with them,
except for that one dude.
But that was funny,
right? That was hilarious.
And like even if we caught some opposition, we would still like talk to them. And you were really good at it, like just like interacting with them.
Dude just fell asleep in front of us.
Changing it around, yeah, and they're all on their phones, and
right?
shit.
Oh god!
But it was. You put together a mental edit of about 18 minutes of it, and it was a great experience. And then it was also simultaneously like the worst bar show I've ever done.
But it did help that we had each other.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Oh, thank God!
Yeah, I can't even imagine
I'm
doing
getting
that alone.
Like retroactively nervous just thinking about doing that alone. That would have been a fucking nightmare for me. I would have just left. After a while.
How did she delegate that to you?
Well, because the teacher asked
specifically
for why don't you? Because they have people come in. They have like he's friends with like Jesse Eisenberg. And like Run from Run DMC comes in.
No shit.
And then Matt Fulcheron and Daniel Torado come in.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Not Fluffy.
Power of how, baby.
Two comedians that weren't Fluffy.
Power of how the hell did you get in here?
Put together, we're Fluffy.
Yeah, man. That was a rough one.
Hey, kid, I get no respect.
I think that's it for us, right?
All right, yeah, absolutely.
Very happy to be with you guys.
This was fun.
This was fun to do this, and check us out.
Oh yeah,
At the Power of How podcast on all social media, and then on Twitter at Power of How. And then it's buzzsprout.com/the Power of How podcast.
and check out my Twitter account, all of our Twitter accounts, but at the Full Charge, we'll have a pinned tweet by the time this comes out.
Okay.
Which will be our Patreon. Excuse me. Link. Patreon link. I can edit that out. Relax.
I'm not.
That might be the clip.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Later.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Power of How. Music by Daniel Torado, artwork by Nelson Diaz. Follow us on all the social medias at The Power of How Podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe, and check us out at patreon.com/The Power of How Podcast. Send us some positive vibes in the form of U.S. currency. See you next week, everybody.